Hey friends, I wanted to put out a real quick video on the more recent shooting that we saw in the Metro Detroit area in Michigan. More specifically, the Oxford High School area in Michigan. As you guys know, we at this point, this is the day after the shooting, have 3 killed students and 7 wounded. I think the 7 wounded included 1 teacher. Teacher, I believe, was shot in the shoulder and has since been released. I know a couple of the other kids, at least 1 in general, is not doing that great right now. But again, 3 killed, 7 wounded for now. Lots of things about this, a lot of things we don't know. I'm only putting this out just as a notification of what's going on. I do not have all the facts, just like the news media does not appear to have all the facts right now. I do want to point out that it was a 6-hour 9mm that is reported by officials to have been used in the attack. There were 2 15-round magazines that were, I believe, located. I think there were 3 magazines, and again, I say I think. This is all being reported, so I'm telling you what I've read. But they think there were 3 magazines involved. The magazine and the firearm, there was one in the chamber whenever the suspect was caught in the hallway who gave himself up. He was 15 years old. That suspect had 7 rounds in the magazine, the current magazine. So that tells me that if there was one in the chamber, he probably shot 7 times. Now, that doesn't make sense because it looks like 10 people were shot. So the math doesn't really add up if there were 15 rounds in there. Just the simple math, if there were 8 remaining, that means 7 rounds were shot. So I don't really know exactly if there were more magazines involved. And again, I'm just basing this. Yes, I know a round could have passed through one of the people who were shot. But I'm just letting you know what I know. And they claimed that there were 2 other 15-round magazines that were involved. Now, I don't know if those magazines were in fact topped off, or if maybe he had fired a couple of rounds and then reloaded, kind of a tactical reload or something. I don't know that. Not that that's important, but I mean, there are some conflicting things already. That typically happens whenever we have a shooting and the news gets out there really early. Of course, the media, not being gun people and not being educated on firearms, they typically make a lot of really stupid and ignorant mistakes. And that's why I'm pointing all these things out, because in many cases, you can't always believe what you read. It's also reported that the father bought this 6-hour 9mm 4 days earlier on Friday. The shooting took place on Tuesday, yesterday, and Friday. This previous Friday is when the father bought it. As chance would have it, that was also the 10th highest ranked NICS background check on record day. The day after Thanksgiving was this past Friday when the father bought the firearm. So he was included in that group of the top 10 NICS background checks. So that's what we know so far. A thing that that's it's not being said right now what the motive was. I'm pretty sure I know what the motives are. If you've read my book, How to Make a Monster, at howtomakeamonster.com. Yes, I'm trying to sell my book because I do believe my book answers a lot of questions that nobody seems to be asking. More people are concerned with the type of gun, where the gun came from. It supposedly was a used gun. I know that the anti-gun movement is waiting with bated breath on that right now, because they're hoping that it's not only a used gun, they're hoping that it was a background check, a purchase that was done without a background check. In other words, they're hoping that it was a private sale, so that they can say, see, we had a school shooting and this was a private sale. We need background checks on everything. We need universal background checks. I guarantee you that's what, and I'm not even guaranteeing it, I know that that's what the anti-gun movement is holding on for, because they're always so disappointed whenever they find out the firearm involved in any kind of a rampage killing was legally purchased and legally acquired and legally possessed. So in this case, it does sound like there are some question marks. In fact, the father has reportedly, based on news reports that I just read, the father has instructed the son to not say anything, to not talk. So the son, the actual shooter, the killer, is not divulging any information right now. He's not talking. He's not cooperating with police. And again, based on, I think, one of the law enforcement officers in the area, the father, or at least the parents, have instructed the son to not speak on this matter and to not help law enforcement. No doubt they're lawyering up, and that's probably why. The thing that kind of perplexed me is the news report that mentioned that the father had purchased the gun made the comment that it's not yet known why the father purchased the gun, as if there has to be a reason why an American purchases a gun. Those kinds of comments, they're never lost on me. I always get the irony there. The things that bother me is how things like this are always politicized. Again, guys, it's in my book. I mentioned in here, and I wish I had, I will put another video out that goes in depth on a couple of pages in my book of how much money the anti-gun movement makes. I'm talking about big money that they make, and how much of that money also is spent paying politicians to lobby for them, in the tune of over $1 million to Bernie Sanders last year. So there's a lot of people that benefit from these types of rampage killings and really don't want them to go away. They don't want them to go away. They stand to lose way too much money. Do I think they are upset or sad when people get killed? Yeah, I think for the most part, some of them are. I truly believe that. I don't think that they're all that cold-hearted. But at the same time, since they don't know these people, they're not connected to these people, I think it's easy for them to continue to have this being a business decision for them, and they really, without saying it out loud, and they never will, they're okay with these shootings because these shootings pay their bills. These shootings feed their families. They make a lot of money. They drive really nice cars and live in really nice homes because they make a lot of money in the name of gun safety on the anti-gun enterprise side. So it's really important that, and you've already got politicians politicizing this without even having the facts. At least I stayed in here that I don't have facts. And I mentioned a lot of what I'm talking about is supposition, or it's read off of the internet from news agencies. But the Michigan Attorney General, Dana Nessel, has already said we must act to properly address gun violence, not even talking about why the child did this, in our schools, and the ongoing threat of another unconscionable tragedy if we continue to only offer thoughts and prayers. Our kids deserve better. Our kids do deserve better. And I point out the things we could do to effectively implement true safety in terms of protecting our children at schools. It goes into a plethora of things. Again, it's in my book. These people don't care about what the root cause is. They immediately say they need to address gun violence. They don't talk about violence. They don't talk about mental health. They don't talk about homes. They don't talk about fatherless homes. They don't talk about over-medicating our children. They talk of nothing. They mention none of those things because it's easy and it's very lazy for them to immediately address the fact that a gun was involved, so it must be a gun violence problem, just like the red SUV driver who killed those 6 people, those young kids and those old people over in that mass rampage driving that everybody wants to say a red SUV caused this. They're saying a gun caused this. A gun did not cause this 15-year-old to decide in his own mind that I want to kill people. The first step was not him, and I don't have my firearm on my side. The first step was not him. I'm going to grab my lighter here, holding a gun that his dad recently purchased 4 days ago and going, I think I want to kill some people. That's not how it happens. The decision to kill people is made, and then their next step is to seek out a tool to actually carry that murder out. That's the problem. Something came first. Nobody's looking at what came first. It's easier and, again, lazy to blame the gun. So we're blaming guns and the gun community instead of trying to figure out why and how this happened. Let's see. Another Senator, Rosemary Bayer, on top of an already difficult situation with the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. I'm sorry. That's a Freudian slip right there. COVID-19 panic. The COVID-19 pandemic, our students now have to face this traumatic situation in a place that is supposed to be a safe space for learning and growth. You know why it's not a safe space? Because you people will not harden our schools. You're afraid that it's going to hurt somebody's feelings if we harden our schools. And you know what I really think in the back of my mind that nobody's saying out loud? You're afraid that it's actually going to stop these rampage killings in our schools. You're afraid that what we suggest will actually work, and the banning of guns will be pointless because we've hardened our schools like we do Congress and like we do prisons where there are no shootings. You're afraid that our ideas will actually work. So you want to remove guns and not harden the schools because you don't want to admit we're right. So who really cares about the children? I've put forth, again, it's in my book, How to Make a Monster. I put forth all kinds of remedies of how we can harden and effectively prepare our schools to where this kind of stuff cannot happen. It's reported that this child, at this school where this child shot these people, there's no metal detectors, there's no bag checks, there's no hardening of the school. The child can walk in off the street. The child can walk in out of his parents' vehicle, out of the school bus with a fully loaded firearm and 2 additional magazines And it doesn't matter because you have not allowed us to harden our schools. All of these people making these comments are all politicians who all have the power to implement policies to harden our schools. And they're not doing it. They're lazy and they're being opportunistic by taking advantage of this and trying to ignore our suggestions to say that theirs are more important, being anti-gun.
Let's go, Brandon.